Good, Lauren.
Okay, so I am going to call to order today's meeting of the Finance Committee. It's Monday, May 4th, 2020. The time's 4:32. I am going to do the roll call for the meeting for everybody. I'm Laura McNally, Fifth Ward City Council. We have Rick Deek, Anita Davis, Sixth Ward City Council, Kevin Flynn, Mike Ray, Fourth Ward City Council, Harry Johnson, Chief Finley, Basha Adamczak, Seventh Ward City Council, Beverly Hosey, Chuck Shasho, Dana Lance, Dawn Turnage, Domain Kitchen, President of City Council, Jonathan Huff, Jennifer Ozinger, Jimmy Hughes, Second Ward City Council, Julius Oliver, First Ward City Council, Kyle Mizak, Mike Durkin, Nikki Posterly, Samantha Turner, Third Ward City Council, Valencia Mero, Aaron Bishop, Mayor Brown, Sharon Woodbury. Everyone I see on the call.
Lauren?
Yes, Mike Ray.
Could we ask Rick if we are broadcasting? I got a text message from David Skolnick, says he can't get, it's not broadcasting on the internet.
It is broadcast right now.
If we use the link from the City Hall site, I just tried to use it.
Let me just double check.
Okay, we'll take just a little break for a second here and let Rick check our feed.
Oh, it's at the top. I see it now. Let's see.
Yeah.
If I can add, this is Jeff Limby, and I'm on by audio, not video.
Thank you, Jeff. I see you are one of the phone numbers.
It's there now. Thank you, guys.
Limby, and I'm on by audio, not video.
Thank you, Jeff. I see you are one of the phone numbers.
It's there now. Thank you, guys.
Okay, are we good to start? Okay, we'll get back to it. Council members, raise your hand in front of your camera if you have a question. Otherwise, I'm going to go through this agenda. If any of the department heads want to speak as well, just raise your hand and I'll call your name and then you can unmute yourself. Sounds like somebody might be listening to the live feed. Can you turn it off because it's giving us some background feed? Thanks. Okay, under ordinances here, number 1, to approve the purchase of water bill envelopes. Any questions around this? Okay. Item number 2, authorizing the Board of Control to purchase equipment for the demolition department. Questions around this? Samantha, go ahead and unmute.
I don't have a question, but again, if you're not talking, can everybody mute themselves? I see people that are unmuted and it keeps bouncing back.
Sam, I can't hear you.
Can you mute everybody, Lauren? Rick, can you mute everybody?
Lauren, you have all the controls there.
Oh, I got him now. Give me 1 second. As I mute everyone, there's probably a quicker way. All right, everybody should be muted now. All right. Okay. So any questions on ordinance number 2 for the demolition equipment? All good. Okay, item number 3. Let's see, make payments to the state of Ohio ODOT for the Mahoning Avenue project. Questions? Okay. Number 4 it has to do with grass cutting. I believe number 4 and number 5 are both related to grass cutting, our grass cutting program. Questions? Raise your hand. I see Anita. Unmute yourself and then ask your question.
Yes, was this put out for bid?
Through the chair, Lauren, no, that we didn't put these out for bids ever. We do proposals to get the vendors, the qualified vendors. So that since we started this in Mayor Brown's administration, there's never been gone out for bids. We've always done proposal, and we pay them $30 per lot. We set the price at $30 per lot. Actually, this will be the 3rd year we've done it at $30 per lot.
Through the chair. Through the chair. Through the chair.
Anita, go ahead.
Yeah, well, a follow-up, but in the past, we've had multiple contractors, not just 2, receiving $50,000 apiece.
Mr. Durkin.
Through the chair, Anita. So we, right now, we're not attacking the whole city. However, I just wanted to make sure that we had enough vendors in place to go out and start. We're not going to complete everything. However, these 2 vendors that we have right now are quite large and they're able to handle it. And I hadn't been able to, they're the only 2 that we have proposals and all the documentation and contracts and everything with them done because we were able to get it done prior to the COVID virus. So those are the 2 that I would like to start with right now. However, should these things be lifted, we will be able to, change that and move on to other vendors at that time. We're just basically doing mostly complaints, which will be starting next week if this passes, or the end of this week. I apologize. The end of this week if this passes. So,
Anita, follow up.
A direct follow-up, yes. So to Attorney Limbian, number 1, is this legal to do it in this fashion? I mean, at $50,000 per contract. What does the law say that we have to do with the $50,000 contract?
Mr. Limbian. You are muted. Sorry, Jeff, go ahead, start over.
That's okay. Thank you. Through the chair. I do not have the actual statute in front of me, but my appreciation after having researched this is that there's no prohibition in the law from handling grass cutting in this method. But I will verify that and get you the statutory language. Thank you.
Well, then,
Anita, sorry, were you talking?
yeah, I'm sorry. It's kind of weird with this delay. But since we don't have from Attorney Limbian something that's definitive, I think we should be waiting on something like this. If it's only going to be a week's delay, he can get it back to us before the Wednesday meeting. Jeff,
I will do that.
thank you.
Julius, you had your hand up.
Thank you. Through the chair, Mike or whoever can answer the question. With these new contracts with the new grass cutters, have we solved the problem of lots being said they've been cut, but actually weren't cut, but the contractors were paid for them anyway.
Through the chair, yeah, Julie, these are two contractors that I kept for this emergency purpose. They're the only ones that we did not receive complaints on last year. And we had complaints on vendors cutting the front and not cutting the back. So they have no complaints. They've done quality work. And that's why our whole grass cutting program last year, we only spent $72,000. So I don't see us going even, over that. We've cut so many off of that through demolition. And we've been more diligent as far as getting a hold of the property owners through our rental registry and vacant registry. So we've actually cut down on the amount of properties that, vacant properties that we're going to need to cut. So I see that number going down a little bit more this year also.
Okay, follow up, through the chair.
Go ahead, Julius.
Was YNDC considered to come back on as our contracted grass cutters? And are there any current conflicts of interest when it comes to contractors that have been hired through the city?
Through the chair, no, through the chair, YNDC does not want to be part of that. They did not have the personnel. We have talked all along with regards to this. And the vendors that we are currently using are the same. The two that we use are the same that the city's been using from day one.
So through the chair, there's no conflicts?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Mike, you mentioned that you're only going to be doing a portion of the city with this and just doing complaints, not maybe houses that we had on lists from previous years.
That through the chair, that's correct. We'll be just dealing with what we get the most complaints on, and something that are, especially when all our inspectors or I'm driving around, we see egregious properties where the grass is extremely high, then we're dealing with those. The only reason we need to get started is because if they get to the point where they're too high for a lawnmower or a riding mower, then we're going to end up having to have them come in and get brush hogged, and that's going to drive our cost way up, because it's going to be almost a triple cost as far as the cut goes.
And how are we doing on the assessment side of things and charging for these cuts? What did we bring in last year, Kyle? Do you have numbers?
Lauren, I don't actually have that material in front of me. I do have the amount of money that the county has been notified on that was not paid, that has not been passed on to the assessment. But I can provide to tomorrow to Valencia what we actually had remitted to us from the county for 2019 that was collected on our behalf, and also what we collected in-house through payments made directly to the department, and coupled with the money that was collected by Millstone and Canison. So I will forward that to her tomorrow, and she'll share it with all of you.
Julius?
Thank you, through the chair. How many of these contractors, and how many minority-owned businesses are suffering right now? How many contractors are minority-owned businesses now and moving forward?
Through the chair, Lauren, I can answer that. Yes, all of them are. They're all minority contractors.
Thank you.
Anita?
Through the chair, yes. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So Mike, I want to be clear. These people, this money's only going to be covering lots in which we do a complaint. What about on a regular basis, like an ongoing cutting of these vacant lots? Are they vacant lots or are they homes?
No, this is through the chair. Sorry, this is strictly vacant structures. The vacant lots are cut by the street department. We will not be cutting any vacant lots with these vendors. They strictly cut vacant structures.
Thank you.
Mike, didn't we have those some lists that we were working with just for an organized fashion to go after homes that we know?
Yes.
Are vacant and things like that. So we're cutting those, not just, sort of waiting for that complaint to come in.
Through the chair, yes, we do have an existing list. And actually, before we start, when we did this the last 2 years, we actually send out a list. We put it on our website. And that gives us the opportunity, or gives the owner the opportunity to, know that we will be coming. And our Tracy that works in rental registry, it was also calling property owners to let them know ahead of time that we will be coming, that the grass cutting program will be starting. And yes, we do have an active list that we've been keeping. And what we do is we go through it every year to see whose properties that the owners have changed names, properties that are extremely tax delinquent, things like that. So, and that's one of the things we're going to be looking forward to this year is the properties that are extremely tax delinquent. I'm going to actually put a list together and try to go over it with, with the mayor and with planning, because we're cutting the properties and we're not getting anywhere as far as the tax collections. So we'll have to see if we can come up with a plan. Either the city just take the property or however we decide we want to do it. But there's quite a few of them out there that we do have the list, and they are repeat offenders. So the repeat offenders that we do go out and we do those.
Okay. Anita?
One last question. Maybe it might be two questions. But Mike,
yeah,
these are minority owned, and these are both Youngstown businesses, correct? And where are they located?
That's correct. They are Youngstown. I believe one is on the east side and one is on the south side.
Which ones?
What's his name? Sorry. Christoph's Lawn Care is on the south side and on the 6th Ward, and the Arts is on the east side.
I'll be in touch with you. Thank you.
Okay.
Are there any more questions on Mike? Mike, go ahead.
So was there a suggestion to wait on passing this? I was trying to get a clarification. I don't want, these are quality of life issues. I want to make sure we're able to be cutting grass because, like Mike said, once we get behind and it's slower, it takes some time to get caught up. We're playing catch up and it costs more money. So I don't want to see a delay in service.
Julius.
If it's done in the same fashion as we've been doing it, I don't have a problem with it.
And Mike, are you planning on adding to the list of contractors, or are you going to run this season with just these two?
Through the chair, I was going to do this month with these two, and then to see what happens, obviously, with the virus. And then we could take a step back and we can actually add anybody at any time we want. And if things remain the same, the reason I made it for the 49,000 was if things don't change and we can't get these people in to get the paperwork in and to interview, then we'll have to just keep going as is. If not, at the end of May, I was going to take a step back and just, see if things changed. If they didn't, then we'll just have to leave it as it is for the next month. And we can keep reviewing it every month.
Okay, and you said last year you spent about 70,000 on grass cutting.
Through the chair, sorry, 72,000.
Okay, Samantha had her hand up.
Not a guarantee for these contractors. This is just how much you could pay each of them for over the course of the season. You're saying like at the end of the month, if this doesn't work out, or if you get staff in to do the work, you'll, pull back on these contracts.
Through the chair, that's correct.
So from a legal standpoint, Jeff, how does that work with us passing this ordinance, with us going through saying not to exceed that? But I mean, what if they only cut 4 lots, and what type of recourse could they possibly have? I'm not sure. Just want to know where you stand on that, Jeff.
To the chair.
Can I
Through the chair.
interject? By us entering into an agreement to pay these vendors, they can only bill us. If they do not perform any services, they're not going to be billing us for properties, and we're not required to make any payment. We would only make payment on those properties that we agreed to have them go out and mow, and then they would, in essence, bill us, and then we would make those payments. And we couldn't make payments to either one of these vendors if it exceeded that through the whole summer. But if we end up only making $5,000 worth of payments, that's all that vendor gets paid. This is just you're giving us the authority, the administration, to actually administer the program through these 2 vendors.
So I'm sorry, through the chair, so why are we not asking just for a dollar amount? Why are we attaching it to a specific company if that's the case? That it's just clear that the business's name is here, and then there's the 49,000. I don't know, it seems kind of muddy. Why is just asking for a purchase order so that you're able to pay the bills as they come in instead of attaching it to a specific business? Because I mean, I'm just saying, from a outside looking in, or saying, oh, I got this contract to do $49,000 worth of grass cutting, and here they only had me cut, it's what, say at 1,600, they only had me cut 100 times. You know, I'm trying to get clear as to why we're not just asking for a blanket purchase order for grass cutting instead of attaching it to certain businesses. I just want to know. Thank you.
I'll try to assist. What we're doing is, as Mike said, right now he's only been able to actually meet with 2 vendors who have in place the ability to go out and actually start tackling these needs to mow these properties with structures. The idea is, if we don't have the luxury of, because of the virus, of being able to expand that with other vendors, by you giving us the authority that we could spend up to this amount with these 2 vendors, we could, in essence, over the course of the summer, continue tackling this high grass with these 2 vendors. And if we didn't have this in place, those vendors could only work for us up to $25,000. If this is to continue for the summer, we at least won't have to come back. And if there's some issues that prohibit us from being able to get in front of you and ask again, at least we can put it in place. Mike is saying that we'll come back to you in 30 days and give you an update of how much we've expended, how many properties have been mowed, and then we can reevaluate based on going forward. Do we want to continue with just these 2? Do we want to expand it? But at least we aren't hindered in being able to go forward and mow.
Any other questions? Anita, I see your hand up.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One last question. Mike, and talking to these 2 vendors, how many lots can they do daily, the maximum?
Through the chair, both of them were able to do this past year, grass cutting season, they were doing upwards of about 30 per day per each one of those properties. So they were able to, they have quite a bit of personnel, and they were able to really go to town.
Thank you.
Lauren, you're muted.
Lauren? Lauren?
Sorry about that. I was having trouble unmuting Jimmy, but he got himself unmuted. So go ahead, Jimmy. Sorry.
I think the concern here is, Mike, if I could say it this way, you ended up last season with X amount of vendors. I get that. But I mean, it would be just as easy. You did all the paperwork for the ones that you had last year. Why not just keep everybody that you had last year and put everybody in place right now instead of just selecting the two? Was there a reason why the other vendors that we used last year are they just not qualified anymore or what?
Mike?
Through the chair. No, we ended up with only 4 vendors last year. We started out with 7 and we had issues with 3. And the other 2 vendors that we had, we don't have updated paperwork with regards to workers' comp, insurance. And at that time, we weren't able to get that, and they have to come in and sign papers and sign contracts. And we were able to get that done with the other 2 vendors. However, those 2 vendors that we have, like I said before, they're the only 2 that we did not get complaints on. The other 2 vendors that we had, I mean, it's up to council, but I would love to sit down and have an interview with them because we had multiple issues with how they were doing the grass cutting. And Mike Ray could attest to a lot of the problems that we had. His ward was riddled with problems. And so I don't want to get into that this year where I have to constantly follow these vendors around and making sure that they are doing their job. I trust these 2 vendors. We can move forward. If we don't have the time to do that or the ability to do that due to this virus, I can still continue on with the grass cutting program as Kyle explained. So that's my reasoning behind it right now.
Anything else on this grass cutting? Anita? Go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, so will it be Christoph's doing south and west, and then Art's doing north and east?
Mike?
Through the chair, we have them split up by wards so that each vendor has an equal amount of cuttings. So yes, I don't have the breakdown in front of me exactly who's going where, but yes, you'll probably see Christoph's will be doing the south and west, and Arts will be doing north and east.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on grass cutting? Okay. So that was number 4 and number 5. So we'll move down to number 6. This is our bridge inspection for the year. Any questions on this? Anita? Go ahead.
Yeah, Chuck, I just want to know how many bridges are we doing? Do we have a responsibility for?
Chuck?
Through the chair, thank you. The city of Youngstown has, I'm looking for that, just 56 bridges total that we are required to inspect by ODOT. The reason we have to have the inspections done on a yearly basis, we used to do them every other year, but in order to, if we want to be eligible for any federal funding, for instance, the Crescent Street Bridge was federal funding, we need to make sure we're updated on our inspections.
Follow up to the chair.
Anita?
To the chair, is Market Street ours or the county's responsibility?
Chuck?
Through the chair, the Market Street Bridge is the county's bridge.
Thank you.
Any other bridge construction or bridge inspection questions? No? Okay. I'm going to move on to number 7. This is purchase our hot patch mix. Any questions on this? No? Mike Ray.
Sorry, I had to unmute. This is just for the hot patch. Are we doing any crack sealing this year?
For Kevin Flynn.
I'm not sure at this point. This was just for our pothole repair. I can't can't answer that question right now. I'm sorry. I can follow up with you though.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else for hot patch? Chuck, go ahead.
Through the chair, through the chair, to answer Councilman Ray's question. In the past, we've done crack sealing either by contract or with the street department. Crack sealing will happen this year one way or another, but just have to determine how we're going to get there. We'll get it figured out.
Can I follow up, Lauren?
Go ahead, Mike.
Through the chair. Thank you, Chuck. I know we've advocated for years. And I think the big roads that with this project, we've seen the benefits of it. It does help them age better and slow down the crack process. So I'm an advocate.
It is a good insurance policy on our investment.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. I will move on to number 8. This is our contract for dead animal disposal. Questions? Anita?
Yes, through the chair. Why are we doing a 2-year contract when I think in the past we were using Cheatham and I thought it was a 1-year contract?
Not Chuck?
Through the chair, I don't think we've ever done a 1-year contract with Mr. Cheatham. And I mean, other people have gotten the contract, so we are going to go out for bids, but it's always a 2-year contract. Sometimes some of our contracts have been 2 years with 2-year options or for renewals. We've never done a 1-year contract with anyone that I'm aware of.
Okay, I thought it was 1 year. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anita?
What's the dollar amount of the contract?
Kyle, do you know, or Chuck? Chuck knows.
Through the chair, wait, let me see if yep, through the chair. Sorry, I don't know if I was muted or not. We modeled this legislation request after previous years, and for whatever reason, we didn't have a dollar amount on there. We typically spend no more than 30,000 a year for dead animal removal. I don't know if you wanted to add a dollar amount on there.
Anita, do you want to add a not to exceed onto that piece?
Through the chair. Through the chair.
Yes, Anita.
I don't have a copy of the previous contract to know what the dollar amount was, but I did not think it was $30,000 a year. I thought it was more. We're talking about that's almost like a full-time job, and that's not a full-time job that he's doing, not remotely. I would like to see that be set down at like not to exceed $20,000.
Julius?
I just wanted to ask Nita, is there a way for her to be louder? I could barely hear her.
I think my my earbuds. Yep, my earbuds. Can you hear me now?
If you maybe just talk louder when you talk.
Okay, I think it's my.
Pretend you're yelling.
I'm not, okay. I'll speak louder, but I'd like to see the dollar amount not to exceed probably $20,000 because I think that was the range of a previous contract. For the dog warden, the contract was for $36,000, and he was taking care of all the animals.
Kyle, do you think you could go back and see what we spent maybe the last 2 years on the animal removal and come up with a figure to not to exceed to add in there?
Would you like me to log off and then try to do that now while I'm here and then come back on with information?
That would be fine. Unless, Lauren, that's up to you, your chair.
I don't think you can leave the meeting and come back. I think it's locked. So you have to stay. You won't be able to come back. but just maybe for Wednesdays, in time for our Wednesdays meeting.
Did
You're
Chuck,
muted.
did Chuck have his hand up?
Okay. Chuck, go ahead.
When I saw the agenda, I noticed that there wasn't a dollar amount. So I wanted to get a suggested dollar amount, which is why I mentioned it. I asked Chris Cermelli, she's my assessment supervisor that pays the bill. I asked her how much it was, and she said about 20. It was over 20, but it was like between 20 and 25. I said, well, I'm just going to put 30 in there in case the prices go up, because we have had instances where someone else has bid it, or for some reason, if Mr. Cheatham bids it, his price goes up, and it's been the same forever. But he typically charges about $40 an animal, and 20,000 is going to get you about 500 animals throughout the course of the year. So it just depends upon how things go out there with the animals. But I'm fine with whatever dollar, as long as it's over 20, I would say we're probably covered.
Anita, do you have anything to follow up?
I'd like to make a minute to state that it'll be not to exceed $25,000. That's it.
Okay. Okay, Chuck, you can have that adjustment made for Wednesday? Unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Are we going to amend that on the floor, or how would you want me to proceed with that? Submit a new request, or amend it on the floor, okay?
We could do that, Anita. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll amend it on the floor.
Roger that.
Okay, any other questions for dead animal removal? No? Okay, I'll move on to the next item. I lost my track here, sorry. Okay, number 9, we're at number 9, and it is the water department's annual construction material. I believe this is for half. Or no, this is for the whole thing. Any questions? No? Okay. Number 10 is the Safe Routes to School Sidewalk program. Any questions on this? Okay. Oh, Julius?
Is that program still going in order?
Chuck?
Through the chair, I'm not sure what order you mean, Councilman, but I know that we're basing it upon a study that was performed by YNDC a number of years ago, and it is based upon either what we feel can be funded, or what ODOT is willing to fund us under this program. We have done some of the other areas in the study without the Safe Routes funding, with a different avenue of funding. So I guess to answer your question, we're following the study that was done.
I know Harding that put in there, I think that might have been some different funding, but I know Williamson was supposed to be next, and I'm not sure what was supposed to go after that, but.
Chuck?
Through the chair, Williamson is in there somewhere, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to text message Kadar to ask him while we're in the meeting, and I will get back to you at the end of this meeting. Is that okay?
Thank you, Chuck.
Any other questions? Samantha?
I just wanted to, we already have this funding in hand, and it's just time for us to spend it.
Chuck?
Through the chair, this is, yes, this is for actually going out for bid for the project. We have another one in the design process right now, which I believe might be Williamson. But yes, this is already awarded, LPA agreements in place, and everything's ready to go. So it's time to bid it. The plans are prepared. We prepared them in-house. At this point,
Oh, sorry, Chuck.
At this point, we either got to go out for bid or send the money back and cancel the agreement, which wouldn't go over well with ODOT.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure we weren't going to be like cut out of this. This wasn't a part of some budget money that hadn't already got here and could possibly not get here due to current circumstances. Thanks for answering that question.
Good question.
Basha?
Thank you through the chair. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this was the money that we were awarded that YNDC filled out for a grant and that we did a resolution for a couple meetings ago.
Through the chair, yeah, Councilwoman, I think you might be mistaken. I think that was the application that we are just submitting, that Jordan submitted from my office with YNDC, was that for lighting around the Taft area. This is a project that's already been bid, or that, I'm sorry, that is ready to be bid. It's more of a sidewalk infrastructure type thing. This project, will be for sidewalks, and Councilman Oliver, I have to apologize. And I even typed it out and sent it to you guys ahead of time. This is around McGuffey and Williamson. Sidewalks around McGuffey and Williamson.
The school, right? Sorry.
Julius, what?
Williamson School, right? McGuffey and Williamson School.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. So, sorry about that.
Thank you. Sorry, through the chair.
Okay, any other questions on this? Okay, I'm gonna move on to number 11. This is a water line project. Questions around this one? Okay, I'm gonna move on to number 12. This is the Mahoning Youngstown Signal Upgrade Project. Questions? Samantha?
I have a general question. I'm not familiar with this program. Can someone just explain to me how it comes about and how the areas are selected? I saw that it happened on South Avenue. I just wanted to kind of get some clarity on it a little bit.
Chuck?
Through the chair, this is through a program called, they call it the CMAQ program. It stands for Congestion, Mitigation, Air Quality. There's a number of different aspects to it. There's some transit things that go along with it sometimes that we obviously wouldn't be involved in. But one of the eligible projects is traffic signal modernization, in the sense that it's supposed to cut down on congestion and air quality, because vehicles idle less when they're not waiting in traffic, and to keep traffic moving. The South Avenue program was pretty successful. If you notice, when you drive up South Avenue, they're partially actuated. So if there's no one on the side streets, they just won't call to the main light. The projects themselves are selected on a couple different ways. Sometimes we select them based upon what other projects are going on in the area. If we have a roadway project that's involved with it, the traffic volumes themselves play a huge role. So we actually hire a consultant during the application process to do traffic counts and do a preliminary model of the roadway to see how traffic is moving. Is it a candidate for congestion mitigation? To be quite honest with you, in Youngstown, there isn't a whole lot of roads that qualify for it just because of the lack of traffic. But in this case, this particular one is from Mahoning Avenue, which we already have a roadway job planned in 2022 and 2023. We tried to work out the timing so that the traffic signals kind of work in conjunction with the roadway improvements. I don't know if that answers your question, Councilman.
All right, anything else on this? Okay, we'll go on to number 13 then. This is accepting a grant for Minority Health Month. Questions? Okay, number 14. This is accepting a subsidy for the health department. Questions? Okay, number 15, this is also accepting another Minority Health Month grant for the health department. No questions. Number 16 is accepting another state subsidy for the health department. And number 17 is accepting a hub grant for the health department for infant mortality prevention. Nothing, okay. Number 18 is accepting a grant for the reproductive and health and wellness for April 1st, 2020 through March 31st, 2021 for the health department. Questions? All right. Let's see. Number 19 is the Mahoning County Board of Health grant, accepting that one to the Youngstown Municipal Court for training and education of the drug court staff and participants. Anita?
Through the chair, I did have a question on number 18. I apologize to Aaron.
Okay, we'll go back to number 18. That's the reproductive health and wellness.
Yes.
Grant.
Aaron, through the chair, Aaron, the legislation said it includes HIV screenings, and are we still doing those? And if it's not us, then do we have a contract with some other agency to do the HIV screening?
Aaron, go ahead and unmute yourself. Let's see.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Anita, yes, what we do, we don't really contract with anybody, but comprehensive care is there on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays to do the HIV testing.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions on 18? Okay, I breezed through 19 there for the drug court staff training. Any questions on that issue? Okay. Number 20 is appropriating money for the court's alcohol treatment fund. Questions? Okay. 21 is increasing appropriations to the court's computerization fund. Questions there? Kyle, do you know what they're using the increased appropriations for?
Yes, it's to pay a bill that they get annually. They normally paid it out of their general fund department, but they stepped up and said we could use their special court fund to make that expenditure. So that's why they're requesting that you give them the authority to appropriate it. It's for some a computer monitoring, and this will be their 4th year having this contract in place.
Anything else? Okay. Number 22 is just appropriating the grant for minority health. Questions? Number 23 is appropriating the money for the health clinic services. Number 24 is appropriating for the minority health planning grant money coming in. Number 25 is appropriating for the health clinic services. Number 26 is appropriating the money for the hub grant. '27 is appropriating for the reproductive health and wellness grant. '28 is declaring some damaged furniture and other items from our AT&T property on Salt Springs Road surplus. Questions on 28? Okay. 29 is our special assessments for city streets on whiteway lighting. Samantha?
I'm sorry, just knew and wanted to if Chuck, I believe, can go over what the whiteway lighting program is for me.
Chuck?
Through the chair, absolutely. Okay, so the white lighting is an annual assessment that was set in place years ago. I don't know the exact date. It was for the installation, maintenance, and upkeep and operating expenses for lighting along major routes in the city. Virtually every major roadway in the city contains a whiteway lighting assessment area, and everyone is assessed on it, whether it's YSU or any business that we have, and the city counts on that as revenue in their and Kyle, I don't know if Kyle would have the information with him, but I'm not sure how much it brings in every year, but it does go towards our budget line item for operating those streetlights. It's basically what it's based upon. What we do is we take they call them projects for some reason, and like let's say take Mahoning Avenue from Bella Vista to Meridian, for instance. What they will do is we count all the lights that are located in that area. The lights, the annual operating cost is then all added up and is divided upon by the total linear feet. And then what we basically do is we assess every property owner their proportional share of that price per foot. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Okay, so just to get some clarity, so you from a city block, you count how many lights, and we're saying street lights, and then you assess the property owners. I'm sorry, can you run that back for me just one more time? I'm sorry.
Sure, it's what we do is through the chair. I'm sorry, Lauren. Through the chair, the First Energy gives us an annual operating cost for each light, and we basically add up how much it costs to operate all the lights on that road, pay the bill, the assessments on, and what we do is we assess each property owner. So what we do is we get the total cost to operate all the lights in that area, and then we divide it by the total length of that area, and that gives you $1 per linear foot. And then everybody's property has a frontage. So if you own 50 feet of frontage and it's $1 a foot, I don't know what the number is, but if it's $1 a foot, then you would basically pay $50 a year. If you own 200 feet, you pay $200 a year.
And that comes in as revenue.
Yes, it comes in as revenue. If they send we send bills out, and we're actually considering possibly a change on this. We send bills out, and if they pay their bill, they get like a discount. If they don't pay their bill and it goes on to their taxes to be assessed, then they don't get the discount. So we were contemplating, instead of going through the trouble of sending out the bills, whether we should just let them assess everything, and we would lose a little bit of revenue, but we wouldn't have to go through the process of submitting all those bills or distributing all those bills and getting the payments back in. And, that was one of the things we were considering, but it does get assessed on their property taxes if they do not send the bill in.
So as a city, through the chair, as a city, this gives us more buy-in to ensure that the lighting is up to date and fixed on our main thoroughfares.
To be honest, I don't know that makes much of a difference. I mean, it helps us pay for the cost of lighting the lights. Yes. The maintenance of all the street lights is something that I know is one of the mayor's pet peeves, and something we're continually working towards improving.
Thank you, Chuck.
Anything else on this one? Okay. Let's see, number 30 is special assessments associated with demolition, grass cutting, and boarding of structures. This is, we've been seeing this monthly. Any questions here? No? Okay, I will move on to items under second readings. This is ordinance 20-58 is rescinding an ordinance in its entirety around the enterprise zone agreement. It is, I believe it's tied to 20-59 and 20-69. And I think Sharon, you were the one who was originally brought this to us. Do we have questions around this? Samantha.
Thank you, through the chair. So I understand back in February when you sent us the kind of explanation of this, but I'm still confused as to why Tool and Die just can't apply for their own abatement, because it just seems like we're doing a lot for them to just be able to apply for their own abatement, and they can just apply for their own abatements. Like, is there a reason why that's like not an option?
Sharon?
Yes, the reason is by limitations of the state statute. We're only permitted to grant a tax abatement for a particular property for 10 years at 75% without school board approval. In order for us to extend this abatement beyond the 10 years, we had to get the school board to agree to it, which will require legislation. And the school board did agree to the increased years and the abatement amount. And now it's up to council to approve that.
Any other questions?
So you said this,
Samantha, you have a follow-up?
I have a follow-up through the chair. So you said the school board approved it. It will require legislation. So you just had a conversation with the school board and they said yes. I feel like this is just really muddy. So can you just like explain it just in one step, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? That might help clear it up.
Sharon?
Certainly. So in any case of a tax abatement, the city is required to notify the school board of any pending tax abatements that are going before city council. They have a 14-day review period where they can make comments to that. If it's 10 years, 75%,
oh, Sharon, we lost you.
Forward, should it elect you. If it's beyond the 10 years and 75%, it's still the same process of going to the school board in that whole review period. But anything that exceeds that amount of time and abatement percentage, they have to agree to. In this case, we had a 75% 10-year abatement in place that was approved approximately 6 years ago. Now we're extending the value of that abatement through the number of years and the abatement percentage. And so we had that conversation with the school board as part of that 14-day review process. They asked all of the questions. We gave them information. The company also addressed to their questions, and we were able to negotiate the internships or the apprenticeships for this. The school board was happy with that language, and now we're at the step of city council.
Samantha, does that help you?
So I have the company that is previously in the building has nothing to do with Tool and Die, right?
Sharon.
Through the chair, that's correct. They're two completely different operating companies. The building is vacant, and Youngstown Tool and Die would like to occupy that building and pick up the remainder of the abatement that was in place for Exterran, and they're requesting the additional 5 years.
And how did, under the previous abatement over those 6 years, how did Exterran do with their tax abatement?
They were on track until the gas and oil industry went down. When that particular industry lost the momentum that they had, they went idle. And so while they showed progress when the economy was supporting that, once that particular economy hit a wall, then they vacated the building. It's been empty. So we haven't had any jobs or income tax that building was generating. This would put it back into productive use.
Thank you.
Any other questions on these ordinances? Julius.
I just wanted to say again, Sharon, I appreciate the additional terms you negotiated in this tax abatement. And I just hope that going further, we can do even more with other companies. So I hope we're still working on that. Thanks.
Yes, we will be.
Okay, I'm going to move on if we're good here. Okay. We have signed out of committee a couple ordinances here. Ordinance 20-05 is for the renovation of the second floor of City Hall. We had a few meetings about this, received some additional information over the last couple months. Anything more here? Samantha?
Through the chairs, just to follow back up with this, the renovation, was to put a wall up and to get equipment and things like that. And in light of what's happening, can the area be cleaned up and you guys could just move your offices down there, maybe put up a plastic partition and that be it for now? Or do you have to do the $150,000 renovation? Because last time we spoke, the police department said they weren't going to be moving down there. So it doesn't seem like the wall is necessary at this time. I feel like that was the biggest part of the expense, or that's the most that we talked about. And in light, I haven't seen, I don't know if Kevin did produce one, but like multi-phase plan, we don't have that, but it seems like it was already a public area because the clerk of courts used it. If we can just clean it up and move our desks down there and begin to function in that space, that would help us just reserve some dollars until we get more certain about our economic futures. That's my statement and question.
Kevin or Chuck, to you, or Mike Durkin, I think, was also providing us information on this. Is that a possibility?
I'll answer it through the chair. Truthfully, right now with what's going on, I haven't even pursued anything if I'd like to discuss it with the mayor further and see if he wants to continue on with it for this year. It's not something that I would like to let go. But as it stands right now, I would just like to hold off on that process until we have everybody back to work and we know what we're doing financially.
Councilman Ray.
Mike, were we using money from a specific fund that could only be used for certain things and that qualified? So it's not like it was general fund dollars, correct? It had a specific purpose. It was from one of the funds associated with code enforcement, correct?
Through the chair, yes, Mike, that is correct. It is strictly coming from the vacant and rental registry fund, which is in excess now of over $300,000. So the money is there, but I'll defer to Kyle or the mayor on this just because of the situation. If this wasn't going on, then I would move forward with this with gangbusters and really complete the process.
Kyle, can you enlighten us on these restrictions around the money in that fund?
Yes, through the chair. These monies are in essence earmarked for those in actual uses. So this cannot be transferred out to assist the general fund. The monies that are deposited come as a result of us collecting money through rental registries, some code enforcement violations. So if the money isn't spent this year, it will still reside in that fund and then can be appropriated next year, allowing Mike to continue to make changes to his department. His hesitance to do that now, given that his operations have been, cut back, makes a ton of sense. Those monies will stay in there. They will be earmarked. The fund balance will probably grow as a result of registrations. So if the mayor and the administration decides to maybe readdress this later in the fall, given we'll be able to then evaluate if employees have come back, we can then, have you table this and we could then have a conversation once we move through the summer and see how things have panned out, given the department is practically concentrating on other priorities versus moving and being trying to restructure its department staff.
Anita.
Through the chair, are we restricted with that funding, with that money because of the language of the legislation that created it, or because there's the state requirement that it be used in that fashion? So my question is it through our legislation, through council's legislation in the past that restricts our usage of it, or is it a state? And if it's our legislation, council generated legislation, then council can change it. So that's
Kyle.
Through the chair, no, it is a specialized fund that was created where those fees that are being charged are earmarked as fees for services so that they cannot be transferred out. And it has nothing to do like what we've created when it comes to the octa traffic. This is almost similar to like an enterprise fund where those monies that you are charging for those operations have to be used for the care of providing those services to the public. So it is a restricted fund.
It's through the chair.
Anita.
So it's restricted for that department's use, or for that department's general usage? Could it not be used towards its personnel as well, or is it only for renovation?
Kyle.
Through the chair, it can be used for salaries. The problem with earmarking it for salaries would require council to change the funding source of those positions. And then if those funds were to dry up, you would then need to, again, we'd have to come back to you and then move those positions out of that funding source back to the general fund. So we typically do not ask council to fund positions when resources are limited. These resources can be used to help expand the actual services that function is being used for. Like if there was going to be broader code enforcement, or for the upkeep of expanding services, for making modifications to those departments. But in essence, though, it has to have some association with code enforcement and rental property registration.
Okay. So it can be used, and not just for the renovations. Thank you.
Yes, it can be used for not just renovations, but if you're going to ask for it to be used for funding payroll, those resources will be burned much quicker as a result of wages and benefits. And then we would have to come back to you and ask you to move those funding positions out of there. And if you so choose not to, now those positions would no longer be funded because the fund itself would not have the resources to accommodate it. So you typically don't want to play that moving funded positions from one fund to another, because if that fund dries up, now those positions are going to be vacated because there won't be any money in place for them.
I appreciate that, but there's no rush, and I don't see laying people off and then do redecorating. You don't redecorate and then tell somebody they're out of a job. Thank you.
Mayor.
Just to your point, all members of council and those who are on the call, that is a valid point. When we had this legislation and discussion, everything that we were dealing with was not happening. So COVID-19 has changed our life. We've done the furloughs, that's changed our life. And I would definitely not have a problem with sitting this on a table for later, because we also have to realize that going forward, whenever we make renovations, they're going to have to be COVID-19 specific. We're going to have to start thinking different when we do renovations. So this was not there prior to the COVID-19. This had been going on for some time. So it just stayed on the agenda. We probably just didn't have to have this much discussion, because you're right. It is not the time right now when we're dealing with so many other things that are far higher on our priority.
Okay, so are we good to move on then, Samantha?
Yes, I just wanted to say also, and don't get me wrong, Mike, I know you guys are cramped up there and you're going to be busy, still busy this summer, even though we're slimming down. If it's possible, Mayor, for them to clean up and move downstairs and work and spread out better, I'm all for that. But I mean, I just didn't think it was we shouldn't be investing too much into renovating the space. But if it would help you to social distance and spread out, because it is a nice size space, I think that it would, that would be completely fine, because it is vacant. So if you need to social distance because you are tight on that floor, that would be a fine to do.
Okay. Basha.
Thank you through the chair. So can I just gain clarification? What are we going to be doing with this ordinance?
Well, since it was signed out of committee, Valencia, does it have to go to the floor to be defeated, or can we keep it right here until they're ready to move forward at a further time?
Because it's actually on the agenda, it has to go to the floor. You guys have to do some kind of movement, even if you want to move it back into committee. It has to go to the floor and make a recommendation. You can even defeat it and they can bring you new language at such time. You have a couple options.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Basha, we can just move it to the floor, and then from the floor, do you want to move it back to committee and just hold it?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll make the motion to move it to council floor, and then so Wednesday we can move it back to committee. Well,
we can do that. Okay. So then ordinance number 20-60. This is amending the master salary ordinance around the community development director within the community planning and economic development department. Looks like changing the salary. Samantha.
We don't have anyone currently in that position. I know this came to us before, and right now isn't the young man that Suva's position, it's now in the Court of Appeal. So I thought we were waiting until we got that cleaned up. Jeff, are you still on? Jeff,
can you unmute yourself? Or it looks like maybe Nikki would like to address that, if that's okay. Samantha, she's got her hand up. Maybe we'll see if she can answer it.
Through the chair, if I may, yes. So this position, Beverly Hosey is currently in this position. At the last civil service meeting, we presented through the law department a letter to appoint Beverly to this position based on special circumstances. The background information with all of this is back in October, I started this position in September. Back in October, when I had my preliminary meeting with HUD, the HUD representative informed me that we are required to have a community development director in place in order to move forward with our five-year consolidated plan. We could not move forward without that plan. So interimly, we put Beverly Hosey in that position. That interim appointment expired in March. So before that interim appointment expired, I met with the law department and with civil service to talk about what our options are. The options that we had on the table was to either allow the appointment to run out, and then Beverly would have to go back to the compliance position. The problem with that is, unless we had a director in place, HUD would not allow us to move forward with the five-year consolidated plan. And because this is a HUD funded position, they don't care about any legal actions that the city is going through. They set the minimum required staff, and they are the ones who give us the permission to move the program forward, which is a $22 million program over the course of 5 years. So all that being said, we were up against the deadline of the expiration of the temporary appointment, which expired in March. If Beverly would have moved backwards into the compliance job, that would have left that community development director job vacant yet again, and we couldn't move forward with the contract with the contractor to help us with this plan. They also set a requirement of a staff of 4. So that being said, the director position would be one of that 4. We could not move forward without it. So that's why we asked the Civil Service Commission to suspend their provisions and allow Beverly to be appointed to that position permanently.
Samantha.
To follow through the chair. So my question is, legally, and I understand HUD wants us to follow their protocol and their guidelines, but if a court of law, a judge says this guy was wrongfully terminated and now he can get his back pay and his job back, what do we do then if we've already have someone permanently in that position? So given those legal circumstances and on top of that, the circumstances with COVID, like, what does this look like? Because what type of recourse could come against us, which is why I was asking Jeff, like, to explain how this could hurt us if we move forward with this, knowing that he already, it's already been stated that he was wrongfully terminated. Now he's in the appeals process and finishing this up. So that's, I understand what HUD wants, but then what else could happen? We can't be losing cases all over the place. If Jeff, could you help me out here to get some clarity?
Jeff, can you unmute yourself?
Hello?
Go ahead, Jeff. I
Hi.
unmuted you.
Thank you so much. Yes, through the chair. There are really so many facets to this. We should probably be discussing it in executive session in more detail. But from just a basic thumbnail standpoint, the likelihood of him getting his job back is, in my estimation, slim and none. If that unlikely event were to occur, then we would begin a bumping process. But that limited exposure should not keep us from moving forward in the planning department.
Councilman Ray.
So what you're saying, Jeff, is civil service addresses this. They have a structure in place that in the event that he would be victorious and we would have to replace him, there is a system in place where through civil service, the person filling the position would get bumped somewhere else because there's those provisions in civil service.
Correct. Through the chair, correct.
Anita?
Through the chair, I think I'm unmuted, but I am a little confused. Should this gentleman win, he would be entitled to his job back, or we would have to compensate him for his job. Then Ms. Hosley, she too would be somehow compensated. We would have to compensate her as well, because her bumping rights would be is not related to her as in her previous down to the compliance. Is that how that goes, Jeff? She goes back to compliance.
I'm sorry, you keep, through the chair, you keep fading in and out, but my appreciation is when you say she was compensated, she'll be compensated for the work she's doing now, but she won't be entitled to any additional money. But we're really getting so far ahead of ourselves when the man has been terminated, and the court process could take 2, 3, or 4 or 5 years. I mean, we're not anywhere near conclusion of that matter.
Nikki, do you have something to add?
Yes, through the chair. The last two items that I put up go together. They go together because the planning and CDA position was combined as one position, which was why you saw that increase in salary, that extra stipend in salary was because it was a joint position. What I'm asking is to split those two positions back out, a CDA director and a planning director. When we had our budget hearing back in February, I talked about the importance of a planning director in the CPED department. So splitting those two jobs out, should something happen where Mr. Cunningham would win his lawsuit, the planning position is still open. It's not been filled. So the idea is to split those two jobs back out, right size the salaries across all 3 directors. So there will be 3 divisions in the CPED department. And I do have a complete plan that I'm presenting to the CPED committee to explain this entire process. But the community development division will be a separate division, economic development, and also a planning division, which is an open vacant position that we budgeted for back in January and presented to the budget committee in February. So that's what that vacant position would be. And it also could be, if within the next couple of months, he would win his case, that position is still open.
And that position, though, doesn't have anything to do with HUD's requirements, the way that the community development director position does.
Correct. The community development position is specific to HUD's requirements and mandates. This one is not a HUD. It's not a HUD required position, but as we presented back at the budget committee meeting, $50,000 of CDBG funds is going to fund that position.
Samantha.
So I'm off mute. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is you went through civil service, so Beverly has the job. So now we're asking to increase her salary and to add increase her salary and add a planner. What I'm gonna say is, barring that we don't have the plan in place, because not just a couple years ago, and I know you're just now, you're newer to this position, Nikki, but a couple years ago, that department was restructured and staff was added. And I know we're trying to get it a certain way. So if you could present your plan and then move forward, that would be great, because you're already going to leave, as how you're saying, is that position, your planning position isn't going to, be filled right away. So if Beverly can operate at her current salary right now, and also I would prefer not to raise salaries and add too many employees, just given the state of everything that's happening. So I would say we should pull this back or defeat it and come back with the language of, here is the plan for the department overall, and this is how we plan to do it. So that's where I stand on it. So for me, that's a no.
Through the chair. Can I respond?
Yes, sorry, Nikki, go ahead.
I'm actually asking to reduce the salary, not increase the salary. I want to reduce the salary. Right now it's at 76,883. I'm asking to reduce it to 72 because I'm moving the planning component that's created in the job description as it currently is out to a separate planning director. And again, the bulk of that position would be funded through CDBG dollars. So none of that is coming out of the general fund, other than that smaller portion in health benefits, if the person selected should need health benefits. But $50,000 of CDBG funding would be helping to pay for that planning position. And I'm reducing the salary of Beverly's because I'm splitting the planning component out. As far as moving forward, the reason that I presented it this way is because of the timelines we were on pre-COVID to get the position filled, to move the plan forward with the consultants, and making sure that I also presented to the budget committee. If I had waited to do this after, the budget period would have passed and I would have been able to present the planning director position.
But the issue with the pre-COVID issue, I'm sorry, through the chair, direct follow-up, the issue that we had was we needed to have someone in place by the time we began that 5-year plan, and we've corrected that through the action of civil service. Mm-hmm. So we don't need to add, even though you're reducing, I'm sorry, I misspoke, reducing that salary, but you're adding positions, which isn't going to increase your net in your department. If we could pull that back and not move forward, period, with this, she already has the job through the civil service lane, and present a full plan, because I think that's something we all want to see. I think we believe that you have the vision, but we want to see it and really be able to put our hands on it and wrap our minds around it so we can support you fully. Right now, it's just you're telling us and we're like, okay. So if you can produce that plan and show us, I think we can move forward in a more quality manner and be able to get behind you here at these meetings and outside of the meetings as well.
Okay, through the chair, I appreciate that. I'll have the plan at our next CPED. I'd like to follow the protocol and present it through CPED first. What I am going to ask though, if you're going to not move forward with the planning position, I don't want to move forward with the reduction in salary either, because right now, the way it's structured, she's the planning director and the community development director. So to reduce her salary and then not allow that planning component to stay in there, I don't think it's fair to her.
It's completely understandable.
Anita, unmute yourself, Anita.
I apologize. Through the chair, I was just going to say I'm in agreement with Nikki that Ms. Hosley's salary should remain where it's at. She's going to be doing twice the work. Thank you.
Mike, Ray.
Who's been doing the planning capacity? We don't have an actual planner, so we were contracting planning work through other organizations in the past, correct? We were not doing that work.
Correct.
Actually.
We have not had a plan. I'm sorry.
Nikki.
We have not had a planner since 2008. And that's why I wanted to separate the duties out, have a separate planning division that would be a self-serving position where the zoning, the land realization, everything that we're finding challenges and bottlenecks in public service, there's no one to direct that. So we have been contracting out those planning duties, which kind of is why we are in the situation we're in now. With our consultant that we have on staff now, we're using him to help build up the team. And I also want to use that as part of a succession plan. So I don't want to continue contracting out planning that needs to be a part of our division.
What are we spending yearly on those contracts? Do you know?
That would be a Kyle question. I know we've contracted some out to YNDC. We've contracted some out to other agencies. We have a planning consultant on staff now. So in all honesty, we would save money by hiring a planning director.
Julius?
I just want to say, as I've been suggesting for years now, to go ahead and greater utilize EAG in the Economic Development Department, even if I'm not sure if we're able to put EAG in that planning position, but they've already had a proven track record over the years. And I just think it'd be an additional great help to economic development if we were to greater utilize their services in that department.
Through the chair.
Mickey.
We do have a contract currently with EAG. However, they are helping, they are assisting with economic development right now, and especially through this whole COVID with our businesses. However, a planning director sees the whole picture. The planning director doesn't work with just economic development. They work with community development. They work with housing. They work with, all of those entities and agencies that we need to have our pulse on. Instead of us contracting the work out, we have better control over it. So the planning director sees the overall picture, not just one side of it. The economic development and the community development have to have a link, and that link is the planning director. So I did present this, I want to say it was back in like November to CPED, but prior to asking for a planning director. So I would be more than happy to update that plan, present it to CPED, and then re-present it to council quickly.
So as it stands right now, you are okay with HUD requirements, correct? With Beverly in the current position extended through civil service.
Yeah, we are okay with HUD requirements right now because Beverly is in that position, and we've also contracted for the compliance position, because again, HUD said we have to have a minimum of 4, so we had to have a compliance officer for separation of duties. Beverly couldn't be the director helping to move the plan forward and get the subrecipients in place, and then also be the one who is doing the monitoring. So we contracted with a young lady to do the compliance piece so that we do meet our minimum requirement per HUD of 4 employees in that division.
Okay, so then is the recommendation of the committee at this point to send both ordinance 2060 and 2061 to the floor we have to send it to the floor, but we anticipate not moving forward with those pieces until you present your plan to economic development, so we could send those to the floor and recommend they get sent to the economic development committee, and they could be discussed during the meeting that you call when you present your plan in full. Nikki, is that
through the chair,
what you're planning
yes.
on doing?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, does that work for the committee?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, 20-63 and 20-64 are both off agenda. That is everything under pending legislation. We have 10 minutes left. Anything under miscellaneous before I take a motion? Nothing? Okay. Bosch, I think you mentioned you could make a motion.
Yes, through the chair, I would like to make a motion to forward ordinances 1 through 30. Ordinance 20-58, ordinance 20-59, ordinance 20-69, ordinance 20-05, ordinance 20-60, and ordinance -20-61 to the council floor for consideration of passage.
For further consideration? For further consideration?
Just for further consideration.
Correct.
For further consideration.
Second.
Valencia.
Excuse me, through the chair. I thought you all decided that you wanted to amend number 8 on the floor to a not to exceed amount of 25K.
Correct.
Okay, So we need to pull that out of her original motion.
Basha, you want to try again?
Okay, I would like to make a motion to forward ordinances 1 through 7, 9 through 30, ordinance 20-58, ordinance 20-59, ordinance 20-69, ordinance 20-05, ordinance 20-60, and ordinance 20-61 to the council floor for further consideration.
Second.
And then Basha, do you want to make a motion to, for ordinance number 8 to be amended on the floor? Not to-
Valencia.
Get her hand up.
Oh, Valencia has her hand up again. Valencia?
I'm sorry. In your conversation, you all said that you were sending 20-05 back to Buildings and Grounds, correct? And then you just said that you all are sending 20-60 and 20-61 to Economic Development Committee, correct?
Can we do that, or does it have to go to the floor since they were already signed out of committee?
Everything is going to the floor, but you also said you wanted to recommend, once it's on the floor, to go to the Buildings and Grounds Committee. Is that not what you all said?
Yes.
Everything is going to the floor. But within the motion, the consideration and passage would have not been for the ones that are going to committee, unless it changed, but that's what I had written down.
To the chair.
So Basha, you need to make a motion then for 1 through 7, 9 through 30 to go to the floor for consideration and passage. You need to make a motion for number 8 to go to the floor with an amendment for consideration and passage.
Okay.
20-58, 20-59, and 20-69 to the floor for consideration and passage. 20-05 with the recommend to the floor with the recommendation to move it back to Building and Grounds. 20-60 and 20-61 to the floor with the recommendation to move it into the CPED committee.
Okay. Through the chair, may I then? Okay.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion to forward ordinances 1 through 7, 9 through 30, ordinance 20-58, ordinance 20-59, and ordinance 20-69 to the council floor for consideration of passage.
Second.
I would like to make a motion to forward ordinance number 8 to the floor with an amendment for consideration of passage, not to exceed $25,000.
Second.
Would like to make a motion to forward ordinance 20-05 to council floor with a recommendation to move to the Building and Grounds Committee.
Second.
And I would like to make a motion to move ordinances 20-60 and 20-61 to the council floor with a recommendation to move to the CPED committee.
Second.
Okay. I believe that is it. Valencia is still writing, so
I'm gonna.
give her a minute. Thumbs up. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned at 6:11 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Rick, I'm going to turn it all over to you.